And welcome back, and I wish a good day to all. And we are on inside the cab of our 2012 Red Ram, and we're going to do a little bit of maintenance today. Now, this is an item that's been kind of lingering that I haven't really commented on about through the interior build and the performance build, but it's an issue that's steadily getting worse, and my understanding is it's a pretty common issue for Rams that use this module. Not just Rams, but any Chrysler product that uses this module. And the issue that is that the key module here, which is what they call a WIN module, a wireless ignition node, if I remember correctly, is starting to have some contact issues. And like I said, it's very common. And a matter of fact, if you just do a search on YouTube for WIN module, you'll find countless videos of this same type of replacement. And what's happening on ours is that sometimes it'll start, sometimes it won't. And then when you do have it started, if you inadvertently bump the key, not even turn the ignition off, but just bump the key hard enough, the engine will shut off like you just turned the key off, even though you physically didn't turn it. So what's happening here is there's a set of contacts, wiper set of contacts, and a set of contacts on the PCB on the inside of here that's starting to wear out. Now, if you YouTube search this, you're going to find countless videos where you can take that module apart, as long as you're comfortable with soldering, clean up the contacts, adjust the kind of the spring pressure on the tension of the fingers that's on that rotating assembly, and it may fix your problem for a good while. It may fix it short term. And the issue after a bit may or may not come back. So it is an option that you can try first if you want to try that before you go through the expense and the programming expense of putting a new WIN module in. But since we're here, and like I said, I could take it apart. I am comfortable with soldering, but I'd much rather just go ahead and put a new component in it, because my experience is with those WIN modules is once they start to exhibit some kind of problem with it, like for instance the problem we're having, then it's best opt to just go ahead and replace them when you can. So I'm going to show you the part number of the module we need for this particular make, model, and truck. Now, there's a couple of different versions of this module. This one does not have the extra antenna that would plug into it and come out to hook somewhere inside the top center of the dash, and I'll show you that. And what that antenna is used for, if I remember correctly, is for things like proximity entry, remote start. But as you saw in a previous video for this particular Ram, we enabled remote start, and it works just fine without having to have that antenna plugged in. So once again, there's that part number, and again, this is for at least fits a 2012 Ram 1500. Now what we have to do is that we basically have to program this WIN module to work with this truck. And one of the pieces of information that we're going to need is the PIN number. Now, the same PIN number that you would use if you were going to program new keys into this same vehicle. Now, you've seen me program keys into this vehicle in the past, and I used a particular scan tool to do it. Now, that scan tool can read the PIN number off of this truck, and I'll put a link in the description in case you're curious of watching that video. Now, that scan tool does have some limitations. It won't read PIN numbers for all makes and years of Rams. Now, however, you've also seen me use, which is why we have the laptop out today, Alpha OBD. Now, this one, I have been able to read PIN numbers off this Ram, a 2009 Ram, a 2016 2500. It has a much wider support for being able to read the PIN. Now, with that being said, you don't necessarily need this piece of software. If you have a good relationship with your Chrysler dealer, my understanding is if you go to the parts department, show proof of ownership, they should give that PIN to you. Now, sometimes even though you show proof of ownership, they're still reluctant to give those pin numbers out because it is a security mechanism. You do need that pin number to one of quite a few security related functions, and again, one of them is adding keys to an existing vehicle. So your mileage may vary. You can try the dealership again, show proof of ownership. They might give you the PIN number. If not, and you really need the PIN number, if you don't want to fuss with the software or getting a scan tool that can do it, you could also just pay them the programming fee and pay them the fee to swap out the wind module. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and get plugged into our OBD2 port. There we go. And I'm going to use and show you how I use Alpha OBD here to read our PIN. Now I've got the PIN number written down, but I do want to verify the PIN number I have written down is the correct one for this truck, as well as kind of show you this process. So I'm just using the USB dongle. So a USB to OBD2 link. So let me get this plugged in. I'm going to get the software booted up, and then I'll bring you right back. 1 minute. And welcome back. So I'm going to try to get you in here to see this as best as I can. I'm just kind of holding the camera manually, but we've got our connector plugged into our OBD2 port. We've got the key on, but engine not running, just so it can read all the modules. And the first thing I want to go into is Alpha OBD. And yes, I want to run this program. I did just update this software this morning to the latest and greatest version for a Windows PC, which is 2.5.0.0. So we are looking for Dodge Ram 1500 body computer. I'm sorry, not body computer. I don't want the body computer. What we want in this case is the radio frequency hub in this case. Now, again, we're dealing with a 2012 here. So it's all, you see your first couple of options. You see a 2013 plus is what they consider PowerNet, a 2009 non-PowerNet, a 9 to a 10 non-PowerNet, and you have two versions of a 2011 to 2012 non-PowerNet. So we're going to be one of these two. Now, I don't know the differences between whether we have a VAR1 or VAR2, but I know in the past, just for reading the PIN in other functions, we've come into VAR1. So as long as it didn't change my connection settings when I updated, yeah, error opening port. Okay, that's what I thought. So what we want to do is come into here, and we want to pick, that should be the right one there, USB OBD2 link. Okay, COM3. So that's what was missing there, was that the COM3 port was not selected. Again, more than likely just doing a run on the update on the software. And I'm sorry, you're getting a glare on the screen. So let's go back to regular mode. I'm going to disconnect and reconnect. And you can see it's attempting. It has connected to the wireless control module. And if we come into active diagnostics next, we should have an option in this pull down. As you can see, read PIN. And then we're just going to start to run that function. There you go, 4669er, and that lines up with what we've looked at earlier. Now I'm just going to come back into the Start tab. I'm going to disconnect our software from the truck and go ahead and just unplug our connector. Now that's all that we need Alpha OBD for in this case. Now you can use this same software, if I'm not mistaken, to also replace as part of the replacement procedure for this wind module. But what I'm going to do next is switch over to our launch scan tool, and I'll put a link to his video and his channel up here in the upper right corner as well, for Watch Wes Work. And he did this same procedure on a 2500, but used a launch type scan tool. So that's why I'm going to switch over to the launch scan tool and show you the process through that now that we have our pin number here. So I'm going to get set up with the scan tool and bring you right back. One moment. And welcome back. So we're just getting our scan tool set up here, waiting for it to boot. We've got our new module out of the box, and you can see there on the back where it says wireless ignition node, and it actually is made in USA according to the stamp. So nice. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna leave the old one in place. We're just gonna unplug the electrical connector so we can kind of plug this one in until we can get it programmed. Once it's programmed, then obviously we'll remove that one and replace it with this one. But the first thing I want to do is there's two Phillips screws here on the corners. I'm just going to take this lower kick plate off, or kind of knee plate off, I guess you can call it, or lower column steering cover off, just so we can get to our wiring that's behind that, and then I'll bring you back. Now, I am going to attempt to reprogram the existing old ignition keys for this vehicle. I've seen a lot of others online say that when you do one of these, you have to have a new key, because the old key will still be mated to the old module. But again, we're going to use the pin number we got earlier, and I saw Wes do this in his video where he just reprogrammed the existing keys to the new module. So I'm going to attempt to do that here. Now, if we need new fobs, I have new fobs, and I'll go get those. But first, let's get this lower kick plate off, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So I got you zoomed in here on the scan tool. Got some, see if I can block that little bit of glare there. So what we've got right now is the old wind module. As you can see, I'll just show it to you. The original one disconnected. We just have the new one just kind of connected here. And again, we'll do the actual uninstall and reinstall once we can verify we can get this one programmed. So what I'm going to do next is just put a key in it and turn on the ignition, but I'm going to use one of the existing keys. And then we'll see if we can get this thing set up. Okay. Ignition is on. We got a flashing security light, but that's to be expected. Local diagnostics, American. Okay, 16-pin connector. And automatically search for the VIN. Okay, found our vehicle. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go into system list and go straight into that module. So wireless communication module, TPMS as well. We're going to enter that module. And then I believe it is under special functions. And there goes, wireless ignition node replaced. Yes. And that's fine. We know we're going to make some changes. Use this function when the wireless ignition node has been replaced. Okay. Now it should come up and ask us for our PIN number here. Okay, current vehicle VIN number, got it. Looks good. Enter the PIN. 4669er. Just want to verify that we got the right number in there, and we do. Going to confirm that. Has been programmed. Now it's going to transfer the secret key to the PCM. So we're in a sense, we're marrying it. Okay, transfer secret key successful. Cycle the ignition prior to starting the vehicle. So I'm just going to turn the ignition off and then on. Now if I turn the ignition on, it may come up and tell us that we've got the wrong key. We got a flashing security light, which again I would expect. So what we're going to do now is program ignition keys or key fobs. Yes, we're going to make a change to the state of the vehicle. Be used when a new ignition key or reprogramming an existing. It will program the wireless ignition node. Okay, we got to put our pin in again. Okay, turn it to run position, which we do already have it there. Oh, use ignition key. So what I'm going to have to do, all right, so now you notice it says that it failed because it's a use ignition key or damaged incorrect key. Note the ignition key may still have been programmed. So let's try something. Let's see if we still get a flashing security light. Yeah, we still have a flashing security light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause you, and unfortunately, I'm going to go get a new set of fobs. Now, I think my other scan tool, my D8 scan tool, will program an existing key. But let's do this first. Let me go get a new fob. We're going to verify that we can program a new fob with this before we attempt to do our old one. So one moment. And welcome back. So I've got two new fobs here, and these are just the fobs I get off Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. They're like super cheap. They're not OEM fobs, but they do work. So now using a fresh new fob, let's try this again. So it's in. Now I'm just going to back up one, back up two. I just want to make sure that we're in that module. System list. Make sure that we're communicating with our module. Special function. Program ignition keys. Okay. So that's our pin. Confirm. So yes, that is our pin. We already have the unprogrammed key in the run position. Okay, Fobic was successful. To program another key, continue to program another key. Otherwise, cycle the ignition in order to start the vehicle. And our security light has gone out of our dash. So what I'm going to do here is, so it says continue to program another key. Okay, now we're going to take this key out, put in a second unprogrammed fob. It's in the on or run position, but we're not going to start. And then we're going to say okay to that one. Yes. Let's try that again. So it may not have had enough time to reconnect with the wireless ignition module. So let's try that again. Now I'm getting the flashing security light, and I'll show that to you here. So you can see it there on the dash, and that's because we have an unprogrammed key inside the module. Now we're back to our scan tool. It's asking us for the pin again. So and we're going to say yes. It is already in and in the run position. Okay. There we go. So you can see our security light is out on our dash at this point. And it did say that we were successful on our scan tool again. Now I'm just going to take this key out of the ignition. And we should be able to lock and unlock. There we go. There's a lock. There's an unlock. Let's try the other fob. A lock and an unlock. All right, beautiful. Okay, so our new fobs are working correctly. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer. I know the scan tool that Wes was using, which I believe is also a version of a launch, allowed him to reuse the existing fobs, whereas you just saw in this one, we tried that and it wouldn't work. So the fobs that we had are married to the other one, like I said. But I got a D8, an X-Tool D8 that will supposedly program old keys. Now whether it'll work with a Win replacement, I don't know. But either way, I'll put a link to these in the description. I've linked these before, but again, these are the non-OEM fobs. Like I said, they're super cheap. I think a pair of these, like a set of 2 of these fobs, is like 15-20 bucks. They're not horrendously expensive. But let's see if we can start our truck. Ah, beautiful. Just so you can see there, we're running. No security lights. The only ding we got right now is, yes, we still need to add windshield washer fluid. Okay, let's go ahead and shut this down. Perfect. Now, all we need to do now is, and I won't bore you by showing you this on camera, we've got 4 Torx bits we need to pop out of here, and then we'll get our new module in place, and I'll bring you right back. One moment. And welcome back. So we're just in the process of getting the new module screwed in. This is the old module we removed. And if you haven't dealt with these before, you can see it's a relatively coarse threaded screw. You're just threading in to some plastic posts that are on the corners there. So when you're tightening this up, no need to go, super full strength on this, because it's just threading in the plastic. You'll feel them stop when they hit the outer part of this trim as it's threading into that stud. So I'm going to finish this up and bring it right back. One moment. And welcome back. So you can see we got our trim panel back on. One thing I want to do is I'm just going to put one of our new program fobs into our ignition here. So far everything's happy. Security light is out. Good deal. Now what I want to do is I want to see if this scan tool will tell us how many keys have been programmed into this truck, because there should just be 2 at this point. So if we say read config for our wireless ignition module, will it tell us? Nope. Doesn't look like it's got, because I've got other scan tools in there that will show you how many. Let's try module information. ID, blah 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 blah, year 20 RAM. That's just ECU information. Oh well. Let's see, read data stream. Can we see anything about number of keys? Oh, number of key fobs programmed. Okay, so it's under the wireless control module and then underneath the data stream. So if we select number of key fobs programmed, you can see we have 2. It looks like an acceptable range is up to 8. So we can have up to 8 fobs apparently programmed into this vehicle. And let's exit our diagnostic session. Sorry for the noise. That's just an alert to remind you to take your dongle with you so that you do not forget it into your vehicle and or a customer's vehicle. So with that said, we now have our old module, which, like I said, it does work. It's just getting flaky and will cut the ignition off if you tap that key too hard without even turning it. And apparently it is now married to these 2 fobs. And like I said, no harm, no foul. But if you're going to be doing this particular job, you need the pin number. You need the replacement module, and depending on the type of scan tool you have, you may or may not need new fobs. And like I said, these are the generic ones off Amazon. I'll have a link in the description. Like I said, they're super cheap, so having to program 2 new fobs to work with this module, it's no harm, no foul, in my opinion. So let's do a couple things before we conclude this particular video. Let's do one more start again with our new program fob. Once again, let's just verify we can lock, we can unlock, and we'll try the remote start here in a second, but let's do one more. And you'll see that security light go out, which it did. We should now be able to start our truck. We're running. We'll let it come down off high idle here in a few moments, and then we'll shut her down. And then we'll what we'll do is we'll try a remote start. Should start coming down here off high idle. I usually like to let them come off a high idle before I just arbitrarily just shut them down. Especially on this one, since it's as highly modified as it is. There we go, a little bit more. It's almost down to about its 700-800 range here. There we go. So let's do this. Let's take our fobs now at this point. Let's close all our doors. Go ahead and lock everything. And we should be able to do this. Okay, sounds good, looks good. Now we should be able to cancel the start by doing this. Perfect. And let's unlock. Okay, awesome. Well, that will conclude our replacement of our wind modules and 2 fresh program fobs. Like I said earlier at the beginning of the video, there are several examples online where you can take this module apart. It just snaps apart pretty easily, and as you can see, as you'll see in Wes's video that he comments, like, you know, there is no sealing of this module, you know, which is how a lot of dirt is getting in here in the first place, is that you can take this module apart, take some tabs off, and as long as you're comfortable with soldering, there's a circuit board back here you can remove, and you can take a chance on cleaning the contacts and putting a little bit more spring pressure on the wiper arms that are on the inside, and that may fix the issue. It may get you by for a while, it may get you by in a short while, but generally once these start to act up, there's a pretty good bet it's just going to continue and potentially get worse, like it did in this case, where this one's now down to the point, as I was saying earlier, well, all you have to do is basically just tap the key too hard and not even turn the key in the off position, and the engine will cut out and stop running. So with that being said, and not wanting to kind of take the chance of this rearing its head again, which is why we didn't disassemble it and attempt to clean the contacts. Also, remember, one of the goals of this truck is to start taking it to the track and doing times now that we're supercharged and such. And I didn't want to be in the middle of a pole and have this conk out, which, you know, would be, especially if you're in the middle of a run on a track, that could be very bad. So with that being said, if you have not subscribed already, please consider doing so. If you have already, I do thank you immensely. Again, our goal is to get to that 3,000, hopefully more, subscribers by the end of the year. And with that being said, again, I will link the link to this, which I got this off Rock Auto. Believe it or not, Rock Auto does have a lot of OEM parts. You just have to sometimes search by part number. I got this from Rock Auto. They had the lowest cost deal for an OEM part. Generally they do. I'll put a link in the description to these fobs, which again, the generic ones off Amazon. And what we used today was Alpha OBD to read the pin, and then we used our launch, and this is a X431 scan tool in order to program the truck with our new wind module, and then program the fobs to the new wind module. So with that being said, once again, if you have subscribed already, I thank you immensely. If not, please consider doing so, and I will bring you back for the next one. Thank you much. Bye.